There we go. Okay. Hello, hello. Hello, Fiona. Hello, Lysander. Hello, Matthew. You gonna stay inside? You gonna be a good cat? Yeah? Come on then. Yeah. Hey, Moonring. Hey, Bangshanks. Hey, Chris. Hey, Not a Dog. Hello, Ian. Hello, Robert. The cat. Yeah, I know. She makes a elusive appearance. Shall I move my paints out of the way and put your bed there? And would that suit your highness's liking? There we go. There you go, Bubble. All right. Tips for cat treats. Hello, Nun. Hello, Moondog. It's been a while, hasn't it, Moondog? It is Kitty Bree. That is true. Don't smooch the microphone. Have I seen the Magic the Cards? I was waiting for somebody to ask that question. No, I have not actually. I'm about to download the game again because I was playing Magic the Gathering. In fact, I got a video of my gameplay of that where I was playing my white deck like a complete chub. And yeah, so I'll get back into that and see what the card set for the Forgotten Realms look like, because it looks pretty good. Hey, Moonburst. Boy, there's a lot of moon people in here. And Likens the subscriber. Have I got a secret were cult going on? Hope you haven't got too excited about the cat. Subtle joke about werewolves and cat chasing. It's been a while, Fiona. Hang on, let me just pop out the chat here so I'm not staring off to the side. There we go, that's better. Now I can see everybody. You've come to say, well, listen, good. I have things to say. Yeah, the Kickstarter is finally, the funding period is over for the Kickstarter. So if you weren't part of the backers, it's not quite too late because Pickett now takes over from Kickstarter. Pickett is a third-party company that does all of the. You would have heard of Pickett already, I'm sure. But they're an independent company that basically sets up a storefront and continues the funding process beyond Kickstarter, so that while you're sorting out all the payments and everything and getting the production rolling, people can still join as late arrival backers and get products. So you're not locked out of getting the battle mats yet. They're dire were-halflings. Ooh, a were-halfling. As the full moon rises, the table is set for the feast. I wouldn't exactly call that a curse, being a were-halfling. So now you're lying where your bed was, now that your bed is gone. Cats, you can never figure them out. Here you go. She loves her cat bed. Hey, Camel Wars. I'm a madman. Hello. Sorry, can't stay 1:17 here and just headed to bed. Wanted to say hi, though, so hi. Yes, I know it's late for some people. It's early for others. Yours is actually a nickname given by a human to a magical wolf who was always howling at the moon when a pup. Fair enough. Thanks, Moonring. Exits are chittles. Exits are chittles. Yep, that's worth $2 for sure. Yeah, so super chat enabled live streams help fund my video making activities. You may have noticed that I've been a bit light on the video activities this past week. I did post a couple of the DMs Roundtable ones where they were impersonating me, which I thought were hilarious and you had to see. But other than that, I've been doing a lot of reading and basically lots of liaising on the Kickstarter thing and getting the shipping materials and all that sort of stuff sorted out. Because we didn't know what the shipping materials would be, the packaging for the products, because we didn't know what products were going to be available to be packed at the end of the Kickstarter. Makes sense, right? Because it gets unlocked as we go. Hey, Kureyama. Human becomes were-elf and elf becomes were-human. What shenanigans can we do? I don't know. Dance in the moonlight? Now you're sitting where I put the paints, just to be contrary. Okay, cat. Are things not to your liking, Your Highness? There we go. How's that? Better? I'll take your silence as a nod of approval. Yeah, so more in the lines of the Red Dragon video, because I really enjoyed making that Red Dragon video, but it did take me a good 4 days to write that script, although it was a monster script. Nice. Dishonored Coward, do you mean the Kickstarter? It's just finished. It went for 30 days. Before that, there was like a failed first version of the Kickstarter where I had to basically the situation with the factory changed, so I had to change the funding model completely. And also found out that a lot of people didn't want like the bags and dice trays and DM screen and stuff like that, which turns out it's true, they didn't. So those won't be produced. No, I did not see Dungeon Cast's Exit Digital video. So we've got more dragon videos coming up, and we've got more specific dragons that are involved in the politics of particularly the Sword Coast, because that's, I think, of interest to people. I know it's Sword Coast and everything's about the Sword Coast these days, but I think it's relevant when there's information which could radically change the Sword Coast, because it takes something that's familiar, overly familiar with everybody, and infuses it with some excitement, because some stuff that was sort of set up by the creators of Forgotten Realms has fallen by the wayside because the game company decided to skip forward in the lore by 100 years and then another 100 years. But that doesn't really count for dragons, who have schemes and goals that carry on for longer than centuries. Cats are fickle creatures, and they let their displeasures and pleasures known subtly sometimes, and sometimes not so much. I think Bree's just happy to be sitting in here. She actually doesn't like the sound of my voice. Here's the funny thing. When I'm working, I don't talk, and I don't talk to my cat. I talk to my cat in cat language. So she doesn't actually like the sound of my voice. So like the other day, I started recording the Red Dragon video, and she made like twitchy motions with her ears, like I was wounding her, and then she was like out the door. So when I'm recording the script, she's not in the room. Was there a Black Death in the Forgotten Realms? Yes, there was. In fact, if you've played Neverwinter Nights, you'll know all about the plague that hit Waterdeep. In the Forgotten Realms, of course, diseases like that quite often have a magical or religious component behind them, or they're attributed with a magical or religious component. Yeah, I've heard that one. Sword Coast is the Remembered Realms, and the rest of the continent is the Forgotten Realms. D&D politics don't make you angry like real-life politics. Well, you're not involved in the fantasy politics enough, personally. AJ got Me Too'd by his cat? What? I don't think that's what Me Too means. Can someone tell me if Super Chat is compatible with PayPal as a means to buy Super Chats? I don't know. I just know that it goes through my credit card, which is the credit card I've nominated for my Google account, because it's all Google. 6 minutes for the notification for the live stream to come out. No, that's right. Question, what are cool monsters to use for 5th level characters to add mobs? Kobolds would be my choice. Or undead. You can always stack more undead on the situation. We need more dragon videos, Dishonored Coward. If small two-legged folk don't have help comprehending how wonderful we are, then they won't respect us. Oh, I see. Yeah. I'm doing my part. That word, I don't think it means what you think it means. Oh, the cat hates my voice. Yeah, yeah. Dad, why are you speaking in bipedal? Yeah, it's exactly like that. Like, I speak to her in cat, so we communicate in cat language. Simple conversations, but they're to the point. Inconceivable. Thank you, Bilbo. Hey AJ, can you go over what is known in lore regarding the human creator deity, and do you have any personal speculation? So that's a gnarly topic, because there's lots of speculation about it. There's not a lot of known things. In different settings of D&D, generally you could say that the sun god, the god of light, is the father deity of most of the pantheons. So for Greyhawk, it would be Pelor, essentially. Well, is it Greyhawk that's got Pelor? I get confused. Greyhawk's got various deities, and the Forgotten Realms has got various deities, but the idea of like the humans not really having their own pantheon it's kind of like a recent thing in a way, because I mean they've got a creator god, they've got a pantheon and stuff, but sort of none of them take the mantle as creator god, which is funny. Google has grown. They're a huge company now. Yeah, it's true. Speaking in bipedal, yeah. Would I consider doing videos for other 5e based systems like Arcanus? Yeah, maybe. Like, I'm more inclined to do a review of RPGs which are not much like D&D. The exception is the one that I put a link in the description for below, and I'm going to do a rare thing, which is before I've even bought this book for myself and before I've even run games of it, I'm going to recommend that you go and pick it up, because it's extremely cheap for what it is, and I'm going to rattle off a few words which sound like ridiculous. It is called Duck Quest, and it's by my friend over in Hamilton, the city that I came from. He produced a bunch of miniatures, metal miniatures, through his company and a Kickstarter that he runs. His company is called Star Hat Miniatures, and his name is Darcy Perry. Here's some of the minis. Good old-fashioned pewter style miniatures. I like the old metal ones; they're really good. And the sort of like a Ralpatha or a the original Citadel sort of style. These are all hand sculpted by him. And what he did was, part of his Kickstarter is he made a RPG for the use of such miniatures. He had an adventure and things. I've mentioned this before a long time ago on my channel. And now he's finally produced the Duck Quest RPG, Quackstarter edition for the Kickstarter, Quackstarter, kind of like Smurf Talk. And it's absolutely brilliant. He's knocked it completely out of the park. For me, as a very nostalgic, long-time player, ever since, Red Box set, it's got all sorts of references to every single element of like fantasy movies and stuff that inform my Dungeons and Dragons. So basically it's like Darcy has reached inside my head and pulled out all the nuts and bolts that make me love D&D, and he's shoved it in there in the form of puns. Like there's Conan references and Dark Crystal and Monty Python, all sorts of stuff. Duck Quest itself is an anthro RPG, so you can have animal type characters, and it's got its own world setting and everything, and it's got a fantastic map right at the start of the book that hooked me straight away. I just wanted to dive into it, and lots of like minute compliments aside, it's a really good basic system game for introducing new players and kids, I think, to the game, and it's excellent for people who don't want to worry about all the rules mechanics and stuff. They just want to sit down, have a really fun story where anything can happen, with some beer and pretzels, essentially. It's a game which I think appeals to the nostalgia because it's a lot like Tunnels and Trolls. It's got that vibe to it. It's simplistic, cut down rules, but at the same time, it's got a lot of nostalgic appeal for long-time RPG players, and it gives them the freedom to basically introduce anything to the system they want. Like you can have cyborg characters, cyborg robot companions, lots of companion creatures. All sorts of stuff, all sorts of really interesting character classes like not just traditional fighter, wizard, thief and stuff. There's also like, cartographer and all sorts of different things. Pirates, space pirate. And it's just quirky and fun. And it's like every single page I turned to was succinct and down to the point, and it wasn't bogged down with a lot of like repeated information or anything. And it was just written by somebody who's obviously played a lot of RPGs and knows what they like, and it's exactly what I like. And I think with the sort of modern take on RPGs that we've got now, I think it would appeal to a hell of a lot of people. And I've said to Darcy, look, this looks really good. And honestly, you could probably Kickstarter this for another hardcover book and stuff, because this is ENnie award-winning good, if anybody remembers what ENnie awards are. Duckburg rules, yeah. Anyway, so that's my recommendation. Link down below. Go and buy it. Tell them I sent you. And I'm going to be doing a review of the PDF when I get a hold of one. I've just got the review copy, and I want to go over with Darcy some of the stuff, because we're supposed to be trying to get some time aside to have a chat with him. But back to Bilbo and your question about the creator deity. So there's speculation that like in 4th edition, the story went that Asmodeus essentially was the archangel of a god that was the creator of humans on the world of Narath, and he killed that god, took over that celestial domain, which became the Nine Hells. So that's the idea. So the idea in the Nine Hells, if you're in 4th edition, is full of like cathedrals and all sorts of ancient trappings of what was once the creator god religion of humans. In 4th edition, though, we also have Erathis, who's a somewhat sidelined and shelved god. She is a goddess of civilization. So basically, the representation of human beings' desire to conquer the wilderness and turn it into civilized arable land, essentially farmlands and cities and stuff. And her objective was to join up with Moradin and some of the other good gods, and that basically formed a trio who would go about fixing the planes of existence. So they were trying to turn several of the outer planes of existence into a superhighway of goodness, which would have radically changed everything. So there's all that information from 4th edition lore. The cosmology of 4th edition was quite well done in parts, particularly where Mike Mills was involved. He had some really good ideas. Say what you want about the man, but he had some great ideas. Right, sorry, I've been ranting on. So I will be having a good look at the Forgotten Realms Magic the Gathering cards. Don't worry, I'm not like a instant reviewer of products and stuff. That's not really what my channel is about, and it's kind of ridiculous to think that somebody who lives in New Zealand is going to get products before anybody else. We don't. Not even if I'm a channel with close to 100,000 subscribers. They haven't sent me nothing. Mind you, to be fair, I haven't really asked for anything either. Are there any aquariums in the Forgotten Realms? That's a good question. I don't know. I'd imagine so. There is in a dungeon. There's this rings of terrariums and aquariums that you have to confront. So yeah, they're part of dungeons, so they must be part of recreational stuff. Rhetoric the Entertainer, thank you very much. Grats on Kickstarter. Look forward to using them. Question: looking at making a Astrial Lich that can control the phlogiston. Thoughts? It's amazing that you spelt phlogiston absolutely flawlessly, and yet those other two words murdered. Yes, there's nothing wrong with undead floating around in the phlogiston. In fact, they find it quite fine because they don't have to worry about oxygen, so they can travel indefinitely. So it's quite possible to, in fact, have a planet load of undead who are traveling as an armada floating through the phlogiston flows, if you really wanted to. In fact, I'm surprised that the outside of crystal spheres are not absolutely crawling with undead. But yeah, it's possible. As for controlling the flow of phlogiston, That would be magic, and magic and the phlogiston sometimes are not best friends. So I don't know. There's nothing official on that. It would be pure speculation on my part. I would say minor local wind gust manipulations of the phlogiston, maybe. Because the phlogiston is really like the underlying ether that everything is built out of. So it's like magic isn't a separate thing in the phlogiston. It is the phlogiston sort of thing. It's not really well described. How common are the Eladrin in the Forgotten Realms? Less and less so, it seems. They were a lot more common a few hundred years ago, but they come and go, because the Eladrin are planar creatures. They are the elves who are more closely aligned with celestial realms, so Aravandor, Olympia, that sort of thing. Yubtub, hello. Any advice on running a one-shot, purely non-serious and comedy game? All my players are monsters, roughly CR8. Oh, also my players are monsters, roughly CR8. Sounds fine to me. No, I don't have any advice, because that's the sort of game I would run. So, fine. I'd run it pretty much just like any other sort of game. All my games have a heavy element of slapstick and mayhem involved, which is fun. So the Hells weren't a thing that was done on purpose. No, that's not what I'm saying to Sonic Coward. I'm saying that 4th edition lore has a story about the death of the creator god of humans. And then that's kind of been carried forward into questions about 5th edition, and then do the humans actually have a creator god? And it's like, well, on the Forgotten Realms, that would be Ao, right? Or something similar. But it doesn't really have to be defined. They pray to multiple pantheons. They also have, like, what happened to the Greek pantheon and the Norse pantheon and the Aztec pantheon and the Indian pantheon in Forgotten Realms. Because those gods still exist, but they're not in the Forgotten Realms. But if you wanted them to be, they could be. And they do get involved, like the Mulhorand and Unther civilizations deal with Egyptian gods. So, you know. Did the Egyptians believe that Ra created them? I believe so, something like that. Or maybe it's a world where they don't think that the gods created them. They think that they created the gods, but they couldn't exist without the gods. Maybe. Doesn't change the fact that gods still exist. Or humans do, so obviously something happened. Or it's possible to say, look, humans just evolved. And their gods came with them. They were never created from something. Thanks, Trindamir. On humans, what do you think about the Forgotten Realms lore behind the Mulhorandi, who are said to be ancient Egyptians thought to be brought to Tutoril from Earth by the Amaska? I'm perfectly fine with that. I think it's canon. And there were actually 2 groups of humans. One was brought from the time stream in Mesopotamia, well before Egypt, and one was the ancient Egyptian humans who were brought over. So basically the plot from Stargate, the original movie. Some big bad aliens moved a bunch of people and turned them into slaves, and they rebelled and brought their own gods over and brought down the entire civilization, and that was the fall of the Amaskari Empire. Will I do a lore review of Magic the Gathering cards? Yeah. Like, we don't know. It's kind of like we knew that Magic the Gathering cards and D&D were going to have a baby at some point. But I wouldn't go so far as to say it is 100% canon lore yet. Like, it's still very much in the iffy quality. Candlekeep probably has an aquarium. Yeah, I mean, anywhere where you can make glass, you can make an aquarium. Do you think there were giant floating pyramids in the west, like the floating cities in the east? If so, would I have got yeah, there could have been. Like, I wouldn't put it past the Amaskari to have built something like that if they wanted to. But they basically specialized in this purple stone that they built huge towers, like archaeology blocks out of. So it was research facilities, villages, and all that sort of stuff in one big, massive building. and their cities were just hugely impressive. Hey, DML Gaming. Yeah, today is a good day for live streams. You've got Jordan's Breakfast D&D show. Then who else? Taryn was live streaming just before. I think he's actually live streaming right now. He could be. So shout out to Taryn Pounds, Indestructible Boy on YouTube. How translucent is the transparent mat from the Kickstarter? Can you see through? Can you see well through to see a mat placed below it? Yeah, you can. So it's going to be darker, obviously. It is. It's not transparent. It's translucent, as you say. It's good enough to read through and things like that, so it's fine. Another option you have for transparent coverings that can do similar sort of things, although you still can't use like permanent marker and stuff on it as easily as you can the transparent silicon mat. Silicon and Perspex, like Perspex sheets, are pretty good. If you're just like having a permanent rewritable transparent surface over top of your maps and stuff to protect your maps, Perspex works perfectly fine. Jordan just demonstrated that on his channel. But the good thing about the battle mats is they got so many other uses aside from just map drawing, cartography and stuff. So they're also good for Jordan, my friend who has had one at his place for a while now, was saying last night that he finds himself just having it on his desk in front of him because it's got a really good feel, like a good mouse pad, which is true. It's thicker than any other silicon mats on the market, so that's why it's extra super durable, and it's got that good sort of grippy flesh-like feel to it. It's got a similar sort of grip profile to skin, you could say. You need help with flump. What's going on with your flump? Cole, what are we saying? You talk about the world of Faragos when talking about the Goth, but is that actually canon? Thought it was just a setting in the setting contest which Eberron won. Faragos. I talk about the world of Faragos. What? What are you talking about, Cole? I don't know what you're talking about. Sky, hello. I like what Mike Mills says about D&D 5e. The company did the right thing in market research for the game. Yes, they did that right, for sure. Like the constructions of 5th edition, I have no problem with. They certainly dropped the ball when it came to relying on one computer software company, to do all of their computer software side of it. They should never have put all their eggs in one basket, not without being 100% sure, and this is ancient history, I know, but it still pisses me off to this day, being 100% sure that the guy that ran the company that was doing the electronic side of D&D, so what D&D Beyond is now, they had an original company that was supposed to be setting up D&D's own stuff, and he went on some sort of creative power trip where he decided that what D&D wanted was not what he was making, and he was making this stuff. Basically, he was trying to do like a VTT thing and doing a shit job of it, not hitting any of the briefs, and so Wizards of the Coast dropped the company. And as a result, the electronic side of things fell very firmly on the side of Twitch, which is a massive disservice to all of us YouTubers who have been loyal to the company, so to speak. And that was pretty much reinforced when they had their live community thing, and they basically shut they just slammed the door in the faces of every single YouTuber who does D&D content, because they didn't invite not one, of the people who do D&D YouTube videos on a regular basis into their community event. So we set up our own, and we did our own, and it was better than theirs, so fuck them. Anyway, yeah, they really screwed up the electronic side of things when they were designing 5th edition D&D, but it wasn't really their fault. It was their fault for, I don't know, believing the bullshit of this particular person, but they should have had like a backup plan. Moonburst. Oh, Moonthirst projects. There's a lot of moon people around, I'm telling you. Glad your Kickstarter was a success, since I'm in on it. Awesome. Could you do lore on Egyptian gods in D&D? Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, what don't you know about Egyptian gods? Honestly, they're one of the most well-covered pantheons. I could, I suppose. Like, my favourite god from the Egyptian pantheon, no surprise, is Thoth. Comic Nut, hello. Hey to you, Lisa. Oh, that was your Moonthirst, that was your test of the super chat? Great. Success. Samuel Z. Willed you grow buried in the near footer? No. I'm not going to grow my beard back until the next season of Invincible is screening. So there you go. You're stuck with the moustache until then. Hey, Comic Nut, thank you very much. I'm glad you could help with Kickstarter too. But why would the most powerful being in the universe not be a type of legendary dragon? Why indeed? Can your mats be used to do the coin trick? I don't know what the coin trick is, Robert. For non-human races and trying to depict them, what's your opinion on making the more human-looking races look less human and the reverse for the strange-looking races, orcs? Would it work well? Amonza. So you wanted to make humans look less human? No. You want to make the more human-looking races like elves look less humanoid, and the reverse for the strange-looking races like orcs. Would it work well? That's a lot to unpack. Like, for instance, I would say Forgotten Realms elves are the middle ground of human-looking, compared to Lord of the Rings elves, which basically look like pointy-eared normal humans. But elves in Forgotten Realms are generally shorter and slimmer than humans, and they've got more almond-shaped eyes, different arrangement of the eyes and stuff, or their bone structure of their head is slightly different. So they've got that like unearthly beauty, but it's strange valley, uncanny valley sort of beauty. Like, it's not within the variance of normal human appearance. So you're like, ooh, you're a weird looking one. Like, humans have got a certain amount of tolerance for weirdness and the appearance of other humans. And the demi-human races go right past that. They jump over that hoop. Orcs and other types of creatures, I think the word you're looking for strange looking is monstrous looking. So what you're telling me is you want a less simian and predatory carnivorous looking orc. In which case, it's not an orc anymore. It's still an orc, like, for your game and stuff, but that's your territory, like, however you want them to look. If you find, like, artwork and stuff like that online which you like, go for it. Like, on the Forgotten Realms, the skin of the orcs is grey, like a dusky, dark pigment, and it's not a melatonin type color range. It's different. Like their flesh is different, because they're from a different world. They evolved from like a completely different bunch of creatures. And maybe possibly more than one world. We don't know. And of course they were created, so they don't need to follow any of the ordinary rules that other biological evolved creatures do. That's one of the things that always gets me. It's like they ask these very politically loaded questions, socially politically loaded questions, and then they completely ignore all the other aspects of the science of like fantasy. So you could point out something which is like, you can single out one thing like Drow having black skin, for instance, and you state, well, actually, they're a created race that came from a mythical realm, so the creation of their color of their skin is down to the belief of humanoids. If their elves are originally from an outer realm, the appearance of elves is due to the belief of humanoids, when you think about it. Right? Does that change things a little bit? It does, doesn't it? Who's responsible for the evil elves having dark skin? People who believe that they should. you could say. I don't know. It's weird. That's why, like, you're in very slippery slope when you start introducing ideas like that into fantasy. It's like, yep, we can move away from those sort of things. That's sure. There's too many like dark-skinned evil races. But on the other hand, if you're singling out drow, you better do your research first and figure out why the drow have dark skin in the first place. It's interesting. Hey, greetings, Sweden. Anyway, rah. Been going on about that far too often. Have you gotten a chance to read up on Dark Souls lore? Have you formed an opinion of it yet? No, James. I'm not a computer gamer, really. I can barely even get into the game that I helped design. Well, not design, helped with the lore with. Because it's just like, ugh. Like, I want to collect all the lore tablets and stuff and check on all the stuff that they put in there and check the credits at the end of it and stuff, but I have to play through the entire game to do that, and it's just like, ugh. I've got better things to do. And like Dark Souls is one of the most gnarly and horrible games that I would never want to play, because it's like, I don't like things which are extremely challenging in computer games. I don't play games to get frustrated. I play games to relax. So like, throw me the softball. I don't want the hardball games. Hey Michael, thank you. Faragos, Gith World. One in the Void incursion got beat out by Ebron in the setting contest, got refined into adventure module in 3.5. Ah, okay. I see what you mean. Well, if it's in a module, then it is canon. You answered your own question. Have one shot coming up and want to take advantage of being a bit unique, thinking about building a jump base PC who grapples, jumps, lets go, and does fall damage. Advice? Aarakocra. Somebody who can literally grab somebody, fly up into the air, and then drop them. Probably the easiest version. Or just a mage like who invents the spell Teleport Other. I mean, you can polymorph Other, Baleful polymorph, so why can't you teleport other people against their will? Hey, Dark Reaper. Red Dragon video talk about Gith and the world of Faragos. I don't actually mention the world of Faragos, though. I talk about the original Gith being humans, but I don't talk anything about any more detail about the world that they were from and stuff. Is the Time Dragon the most powerful dragon in D&D? No. No, the Celestial, the Cosmic Dragons, Stellar Dragons are the most powerful dragons in D&D, and I'll get around to talking about why, and why the Mikado, the ruler of the Cosmic Dragons, the Celestial Dragons, the Stellar Dragons, why the Mikado can actually shut down the Abyss. You're watching the Dragon Gods videos and getting ideas. You'd like to know how the pantheons interact with each other. Like, we know that the Greek, Norse, Egyptian gods all exist alongside the gods of Pharaoh. Do they have mixes and watch parties? No, they don't. So, part of the problem there is that the outer planes of existence are conceptual. So, they don't conform to the normal laws of space and time. So it's quite possible that a god can wander in the infinity of its own plane of existence, going on endless quests, constantly refining its own goals and beliefs. And it pays very little attention to the outer goings-on of other gods and other pantheons. Like portfolios and the way that gods interact with each other aren't really supposed to be codified into the rules. They're just concepts and stuff. Portfolios are important for clerics and faiths and religions and things like that, and just, as added value stuff that we can use to define the gods' traits. But anytime you want to step outside of that with the gods, you have full reign to do so. Because cosmology and pantheons are a pivotal aspect of world building. That's one of the things I examine first when I'm world building is, does it have gods? What are they doing? How active are they? Like Theros gods, very active. Forgotten Realms gods, less active, but recently, and kind of like against their will. Eberron gods, basically non-existent. Dark Sun, none. Tanner, thank you very much for that. My Omni-Man shirt didn't turn out very well, so I might have to get another one. Or have another one made, I should say. Deep folk, but they only worship the ancient Egyptian gods because of all the temples sunk. Oh, interesting. A player wants to be a wildfire druid for my orc campaign, and I'm thinking of nearby fire giant nation with a portal to the plane of fire pouring out a stream of lava. Lava? Okay. Yeah. And a mischief dragon, god of fire, involved in the war of dragons versus giants. Sounds perfect for my campaign setting. Yeah, that would be. So one of the videos I've been trying to get made, and I keep opening up the script and working on it a little bit and then closing it and getting distracted and doing somebody else's suggestion, is the video on Longbite and Ripplebark and its importance, and one particular song dragon in Waterdeep, who's pivotal to the political situation in the Forgotten Realms. So that, I think, will be a good video talking about how dragons get involved in human politics. And not just human politics, but like all the other humanoid races pivot around dragons. Like the dragon ecology really defines Forgotten Realms ecologies. You could say they're the keystone predator. Hey Mark, thank you. £5! 5 quid, as they say. Do you think there was a Cult of the Dragon civil war before the Horde of the Dragon Queen? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, because basically that was the Cult of the Dragon going active. Like, going after those magical items and stuff. Getting very involved, like actually laying siege to castles and things. So that would usually be right before or after some big sort of turmoil, right? So if there's a change of leadership, so now the younger, more active leaders are in charge, you would see some outward signs of action. So maybe that supports it. I don't know. Canonically, I don't know. Robert, you press a silicon sheet around a coin and then stretch it around a cup and put 2 other coins on top and under the silicone coin. That is not something that I'm ever going to get in print. I would have to see a YouTube video of that. In non-D&D fantasy, I treat most orcs like they are just a type of elven goblinoid giantkin who are just smaller but smarter than ogres. Oh, okay. Speaking about humanoid races, how come humans can just breed with anything that walks on 2 legs? Because you want them to. That's it. There's no reason for it whatsoever. It's supported in fantasy lore, biology, magic, whatever. It's simply because people want to tell stories with half dragons in them and half human somethings. That's it. That's the only reason why there's so many human crossbreeds. That's it. Just because you players want them to be there. That's it. That's why we've got Tabaxi. That's why we've got Tieflings. That's why we've got Furbolgs. It's like, I want to play a giant. Do you want to play Goliath? They're a bit boring. They're living on top of mountains and stuff. I want it like a druid giant, like Furbolg. There you go. I want to play a merperson, but with legs. Triton. There you go. Movie science, yeah. That's right. I mentioned Farragus in my Vlaakith video. Oh, okay. I stand corrected. I don't even remember what I've said. How sad. Old age must be getting to me. Rhetoric the Entertainer. Time elementals. How do I explain them to a party? They're there, then they're not. And then you remember them being somewhere else, but you're sure that you didn't have that memory yesterday. That's time elementals. Moving around through your timeline as if it's just walking around in a park. Stepping from moment to moment. Like it's a distance. No, you're not losing it, Cole. I'm losing it. It's official. The other thing too is if you're not comfortable with temporal stuff and temporal creatures in your game, don't put them in there. Do not. So if you're not 100% comfortable with it, practice on a message board or something like that, or have chats with it outside of the game before you introduce it into a game, is my suggestion. Lisa, no, there aren't any collected historical tomes on herbal lore for Forgotten Realms, rather than just like ones for our own Earth, in which case there's plenty. Probably the most complete botanical record of any location in the world is for England, because what they did is they educated all of these noble sons and daughters and sent them off to colleges. Well, sons, let's face it was a sexist world back then. They sent all these men to colleges, churches, where they then became pastors, and they then got assigned to go out to the rural communities and be well-educated pastors who could speak Latin and did all the prayers and all that sort of stuff, but they were bored out of their minds. One of the things that was ordained as okay by the church was the study of botany. It was the one science that they thought was okay and actually pious, because botany was the study of God's creations. So botany, and to a certain extent anthropology and stuff like that, but botany mainly. So England is probably the most well-documented botanical region in the world. And that's also where we got like the peas experiment and stuff like that. I think, was that England or somewhere else? Somewhere in Europe anyway. The Wind Dukes. No, the Wind Dukes were basically air genies. Sort of. I would not say atheist play a character in D&D. I would say a self-deterministic person who doesn't believe that gods are any more than very, very powerful. Very, very, very powerful beings. So it's impossible to claim that gods don't exist in the Forgotten Realms. Just forget about it. They absolutely do. Like, you see the evidence of them way more than you would on any other planet. Earth, I could say. Like, it's pretty hard to deny their existence when you see miracles happening around you on a regular basis. How would you make a god of contradictions? I wouldn't. Oh, yes, I would. I don't know. Not really sure. Thanks, Jeffrey. Yeah, I've never really been comfortable with the Wall of the Faithless. Neither have a lot of other D&D designers. Like, it sucks. It's such a waste of a soul to shove it into a wall where it does nothing. We do need more Vecna, it's true. The Pixie Mafia. The Cranium Rats versus the Pixie Mafia. That is awesome. Would you consider your own custom campaign setting without gods but rather powerful mortals? If no, why not? No. Yeah, I would, for sure. That's D&D basic for you, essentially. Yeah, they were gods, but they weren't sort of like in-your-face gods. Like, hey buddy, I'm giving you some spells. They were more like concepts and stuff. They were gods, but there were also immortals, and the immortals were essentially in charge of stuff that concerned mortals. Russia, Mendev was the P research. Mendel, yeah. Was that Mendev, the guy with the P's? And the, whatchamacallit, punji squares or whatever they're called. Basic biology. Man, that was a long time ago. Yep, in fact, part of my reading, because I was reading through Marco Volo's Departure, Journey, and Arrival. These are interesting, and they're quite different from modern campaign settings. Not campaign settings, adventures. Namely because like they're 3 books. They're pretty tight, and they're really just like on a specific type of storytelling that they say, look, if you want to get the vibe of this module, watch this movie or read this book and read this book, which is really quite interesting. But I've also got these, a couple of Spelljammer books, Skull and Crossbows and The Goblin's Return, and also I rounded out my collection with, there's a big book with all the Spelljammer ships and stuff in it. And if you want the D&D basic campaign setting for, there's Hollow World by Aaron Allison. Yeah. What does it say? Within the sphere of the known world is another world, the Hollow World. There your characters will meet ancient Nithians, long disappeared from the surface world and thought extinct, black law elves living in a magical valley and served by automatons, devices that take care of everything from serving their food to trimming their grass. Azkans, terrifying warmongering natives whose taste for battle extends even into their favourite game, and the losers always die, and many more. From dinosaurs to aurochs. So that was TSR's D&D basic extension world setting, which is actually really interesting and has lots of hex maps, so I'm a fan. Michael, thank you. Any idea who the Juno were? My Spelljammer lore has huge holes in it. Thanks again for the Rhaegar video. Nope, the information on the Juno is basically all that I had. So that's all the information I had in there. Thanks, Mimo115975 Bruno Pina Morero for the $1 donation. Hey, Emiliano. Nice to see you. Yeah, that's a good idea, Monza, where the god of a realm has split into a family of godlings. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with splitting a god up into a pantheon, for instance. So you could say that once upon a time the humans had one god, and then it turned into a pantheon. Hey, Tony. Yeah, wizards have magic too, but clerics basically call on, like, when a cleric is casting a spell, he's essentially impeaching his god. He's asking for help. He or she is asking their god for help. So it's quite different from spell casting. So there's an obvious difference there. Trollsman, what kind of dragons would have managed to best to keep sane, being trapped with their own kind for around 1,000 years without being able to move around? Probably, well, the metallic dragons, like the gold dragon, would see it as their mission to essentially put all the other dragons in that realm into a dream state where they're in another alternate reality, not stuck in that, going insane. So if there are gold dragons present, then none of them. And if gold dragons are there and decide not to help anybody, which would be very weird, because they would even help all of the chromatic dragons in that situation, then I guess the gold dragon would be the only one that doesn't go crazy. Better late than never. True. You're running a campaign where dragons have been trapped in crystals and floating a mountain spelljammer in the deep ethereal and would like some help in portraying the different kinds of dragons. So why are they experiencing time passing if they're trapped inside a gem? It could just be a stasis for them, so they don't experience any time passing at all. Oh, you can still see Bree in the corner. Hey, Bree. I can still see you. It's true. Hey, Monza, welcome to Bronze Dragon, finally. You've been with my channel for a long time. That's right. You've been noticed. You going to smooch the microphone again? No. Are you telling me it's time to go? It is, you know. Good timing. Yeah, wizards respect the gods because wizards also take power from the gods. Hey, Dubai. The cat's on the table. She's sitting on my coffee mug. If that fell off onto my lap, do you know how much shit would have hit the fan and how viral this video would have gone? I know you wouldn't. It's true. Tony, do I ever use Stronghold Builder's Guide from 3rd edition to build keeps and bases, etc.? No, I don't. I don't. It's also why I haven't really done a review of the book, because I only review stuff that I kind of use and like. I do like aspects of Strongholds and Builders, and I have read a significant chunk of it, but it's not something that I generally use in my campaign because the players haven't expressed that interest in that minutiae of world building yet on their own part, you know, for the character's progression and things, because there's usually too much else going on in my campaigns, and normally my campaigns are quite mobile. They travel from plane to plane once you get to a certain point. Yeah, that's true. Castus was taught an object lesson. They have many examples of magical empires falling, and usually the gods are involved. So gods certainly do respect that. Don't smooch the microphone. Just imagine I'm talking to you instead. Hey, Brian. No, I haven't really talked much about the Kickstarter. Just saying thank you to everybody who backed it, who are backers. If you had any questions, though, I'm more than willing to answer them. I know she's like terribly smoochy of this microphone. Just like, let me smooch the fluffy thing. Why else would it be at smooch height if it was not mine to smooch? Yeah, I know. Bree's so cute. Let's go to switch to Bree cam. When are the backer emails going to go out? They usually would be like within 2 weeks or so. I will keep everybody informed as to what's going on, but at the moment, basically nothing goes on until the transfer from Kickstarter itself proper over to BackerKit, and BackerKit basically sets up the shop site and stuff, so late backers can still get battle mats and things like that. And BackerKit is handling all of the details of who's ordered what. They'll provide printouts of all the data and stuff, like so for each person's order. That helps us to get it all packaged properly and sent off to the right places. Adorable cat dad moments, yeah. Yeah, Bast is a great god, Egyptian god of cats. When will my Tressum get her wings? She doesn't have wings. She's not a Tressum. She is a standard Earth Moggy. Does it disappoint you that later versions of D&D dialed down the Magitech? Does it disappoint me? Nah. Expand your horizons into third-party content. That's all I got to say on that. A person, hello. Hey, AJ, sorry if I asked this already, but would you say it's bad to limit players to mostly races made for a custom world? I'm afraid that it may upset or make my players feel bored or limited. Yes, it is. So, essentially, when you're creating a world where you want to diverge away from having the regular sort of player characters and classes, you do that with the participation of the people who are going to be playing in that game. So they already feel invested in it, and you get past that divide of, this is not what I was expecting when I sat down and played D&D. Like, I want to play an elf. What's this? Well, this is a Schnuvak. It's a green-skinned, winged creature descended from dryads. That's the closest we've got to elves in this campaign. It's like, are they good with bows? No, because nobody's got any metal use. So taking the archery feat like I planned is like not going to work. All of my character concepts are completely out the window. It's like, yes. I would say the exception to that is if you've got like pre-made characters at a convention or something. That's perfectly fine. Cats secretly invented the internet. Well, they filled it with human porn, which is strange when you think about it, Gerald. Or maybe that's their plan all along, to distract us while they steal our treats. She's down in her bed on the floor now. I'm going to give her a little dental treat. It's good for her teeth. Is it Seth or Anubis? Anubis is the judger of souls, right? Yeah, remember these? She hasn't eaten one of those in months. She usually gets a whole dried salmon. Little baby king salmon about this big. That's part of her staple diet. Sorry, Matthew. Popping back up to get it now. Oh, there it is. Sorry, Matthew. Hey, AJ, love your content. I rewatched your video on the Marilith. Would a single Marilith and her horde invading a realm trigger a response by devils? Yeah. Boy, that's a good question. Depends on the scope of the incursion. Whether she's doing it just for her own power grab, because Mariliths may not necessarily be that keen on plunging an entire world into a demon apocalypse and sucking it into the abyss. That might not be the Marilith's end objective. Granted, the Marilith will probably be known by name to the devils, who would keep a close tabs on any known demons of that magnitude. But Mariliths, you get kind of a false impression of an orderliness. Like, devils have their hierarchy and their different types of devils and stuff like that. Sure, we can codify and determine those because they're lawful creatures. They follow a strict hierarchy. Demons don't. So all of the different types of demons that we have, it's quite possible to have like one-off mutations of random demon stuff. So you can make up demons to your heart's content. You can have a random roll table for all demon interactions. You never have to use a Nalfeshni or a Glabrizu or any of those set-piece pre-made demons, I should say. You don't have to use any of those. You can just randomly create hordes of mewling, horrible, screaming masses of mutated things. That's that's demons for you, right? So you don't have to follow the normal, is a Marilith in charge of blah, blah. Marilith could just be another mutant type of demon that you have to deal with. It's like a 6-armed snake creature lady. It's like, yep, that's par for the course. Next thing, you're going to be fighting a fish insect of some kind, But I would say, yeah, if the Marilith was involved in the fall of that realm, then devils would certainly spark up the blood war and get things cracking to make a determination of whether that world is going to fall or not. In fact, I often wonder about Eberron, because that world was kind of most of the way plunged into being a part of the Abyss, in its own lore, in its own way, and yet it got hauled back from that by the sacrifice of all the Coatl on that world. So, devils didn't really have a lot to do with saving that planet. Tabaxi versus Leonin, what's your take? They would probably walk around each other, sniff at each other, and then walk off, disinterested. The Leonin in particular would not really gel well culturally with the Tabaxi. And of course the Leonin are a hell of a lot bigger and stronger than the Tabaxi are generally. Hi AJ, please discuss mechanics for a prolonged chase, i.e. a one shot that takes place with the party in a carriage running from Ammonite plus smaller baddies through a forest. Yep. So essentially what the carriage becomes is the adventure location. So the encounter area is the carriage. So everything is moving around the encounter area, you could say. So you can run it like that sort of thing. Like the background is this Hanna-Barbera rolling track of stuff that's going past. Like the carriage, in its journey to get away from an antagonist, essentially has lots of high-speed encounters along the way. And you can have problems such as they may target a wheel on the coach, for instance, and you might have to fix a wagon wheel while still moving. I mean, it's not impossible. Our bodies repair themselves while they're moving all the time. No problem. But yeah, fixing a cartwheel or a lame horse, or like catching and taming and lashing another creature, like a monster, for instance. Like your carriage is now not only propelled by horses, but also an owlbear and a wyvern. And on the back of the carriage, you've got a werewolf, which you are throwing at your opponents once the moon clears the clouds. So it can get pretty slapstick. So I'd say introduce lots of weird random stuff. And the objective becomes not only escaping the chase, but continuing the chase. Ever run the Hellbound box set? No, I have not. That's Greyhawk, I believe. Elven High Magic is the strongest magic in D&D, apart from the celestial magics. Things like creating spheres of existence. Are we thanking people for getting fully vaccinated now? Like it's military service? Thank you for your service. There will be a while until I get vaccinated, unfortunately, because I live in New Zealand and it's like, you know, life is pretty much back to normal here. But the situation with the Delta strain in Australia right now is a bit scary, particularly for those of us who have bought our PAX tickets already, and we're like, it's getting closer and closer to October, and they're still on lockdown. So I haven't bought my airplane tickets yet. My airfare? Is that the word? Tony! Absolute nonsense with the vaccine. Don't do it, AJ. Tony, nah. I'm a biologist, okay? I know about vaccines. I'm absolutely going to take the vaccine. Because if I got COVID, it would fucking kill me. Because my lungs are shot. It would kill me, Tony. So I'm not only just doing it for other people like everybody should, but I'm also doing it for myself. You do what you want to do. You can rely on herd immunity. So everybody's going to sacrifice for you. Take a small risk so that you're okay. Here's the thing though, you can get COVID-19 and recover, and then in your 60s or so, your brain will stop working. because it inflicted brain damage. You know how you lose your sense of smell or taste with COVID-19? You know what that is? That's brain damage, Tony. Brain damage. Because your brain got starved of oxygen because of microclots, because of a virus ripping the shit out of your body. So, yeah, you can recover, but at the end of your life, I'm going to be fine. You're going to have Alzheimer's. So, get a fucking vaccine, Tony. Tony is a virus in a trench coat. Don't attack somebody because they have a belief about something. It's the same thing. I can only hope that he will get better sources of information. Doesn't herd immunity require the sacrifice of a part of the herd dying? No. Look, the idea is that if we're all massed together, we form a human shield, and somebody fires arrows into that group, it's going to hit one or two, but it'll hit the ones that have got a vaccine to it. So it'll hit more people with shields than those who don't have shields. That's the idea. Oh, there you go, Sky. You're avoiding dating a woman because she did not get vaccinated. She did catch COVID-19, lost her sense of smell, and was now suffering migraines. Yeah. Yeah, other people with collapsed lungs. Yeah, that's the other thing too. Good point, William. As we've seen from the Delta variant and the Delta Plus variant, which should scare the shit out of you if you know anything about it. So the Delta variant is now basically a fully airborne virus. Like, it's a fully militarized virus that has reached that point of mutation because it has ripped through the Indian population. The Indian population of billions of people, or at least 1 billion people. Over in Fiji, for instance, we've got a perfect shitstorm of an Indian population mixing with the Polynesian population. The Polynesian population doesn't have very good tolerance for COVID-19 because of other cultural reasons. So what happens is some people travel from India to Fiji, doing their best to avoid getting stuck in India, and getting to Fiji by any means possible. They then pass it on to a Fijian person who goes to church on a Sunday. Their church group basically all hugs and kisses each other. Everybody in the church gets the Delta variant because it passes on like wildfire. And then they go and pass it on to their community. So it's a perfect storm waiting to happen. And New Zealand is now like shit, picking up the pieces while they're getting all these cases on this tiny island nation, by the way. And this is the exact situation we didn't want happening. And that's the exact danger of the disease carrying on in the populace. Like, COVID's always going to be with us. It's never going to die out completely. It's always going to be around. Like SARS is still around. The bubonic plague is still around, you know. But what we can't have is mass transmission of the disease and allowing it to mutate to perfectly match a survival state, so that it basically keeps wiping out a percentage of our population, but then keeps mutating and keeping on top of it and becomes the new common cold. What we don't want is that. What? So, Rick, you're saying that getting vaccinated has a chance to make you retarded, and getting COVID may make you retarded. Either way, the human race is retarded. First of all, there ain't nothing wrong with being retarded. It's not a disability. It's an advantage, because you go through life not having to read shit like that. Stop this conversation. I'm here for the fake worlds. We're past the 1 hour point of the live stream. It's my time now, buddy. Anyway, it's time for me to go. Any diseases that magic can't affect? Ooh, not that I can think of off the top of my head. Cure disease is such a rob. AJ's number one nerdgasm is for D&D secondary biology talk. Yeah, nailed it. Well, that's the thing, William. That's the thing. He didn't even say autistic. He just said retarded. So I can automatically tell, like, a lot about that person, his age category, where he comes from, how big the community he grew up in, just by how narrow that glossary of terms is that he's got to work with. What are you hoping to get up into at PAX? Rob, I'm glad you asked. Hopefully, if I actually make it to PAX, I could maybe be on a panel. So if there's anybody over in Australia who would like to be on a panel in PAX Melbourne with me, let me know. You can email me or comment section down below or whatever. But yeah, if you're going to be at PAX Melbourne and you're looking for a panel to sit down and talk about stuff, could be world building, could be anything. Let me know. Yeah, there's Imaska had a weird plague, and also Waterdeep had a weird plague. I don't know if they really described where that plague came from in Neverwinter Nights, but it definitely had some sort of supernatural element to it. Okay, catch you later, everybody. Thank you very much for all the super chats. That's going to keep my cat fed. She's going to be a fat kitty. Oh man, me and Jerry Holkins. If Jerry was running, oh man, yeah, I would fly to America to sit down at a table and have Jerry DM a game for me. For sure. Moonring, thank you. Moonring, you take the piss out of me so much. For someone who's only played Forgotten Realms, what's the difference between settings? That's your bold-faced attempt to make me talk for 5 more minutes. Well, it's working. All right. In a nutshell. Greyhawk is the original version of D&D. Mystara, beside that, is also the original version of D&D, but basic. Clip that and send it to him. When's the next live chat? That's a better question. Morning, Darkstrider. Will be next weekend. Hey, Sir William. You're just here for the end of the live stream. If you listen very carefully to the sound of fruit dropping into buckets, that is my hobbit parents out harvesting mandarins and oranges for our stall out on the roadside. They may possibly have even heard me say that. I don't know. But it's like 11:30 in the morning. Perfect time to go picking oranges. Here we are at the working orchard. See you later, Robert. See you, Mike. See you, everybody. See you, Sir William. See you, Tia. What's this? Oh, for the cat. Thank you, Michael Bear. Thank you, Memo. What are tri-tools? Just lockpick, or is there more? As far as I know, with a lockpick, you need the prying bar, which basically turns the lock, and then the picks, which essentially hold down the tumblers. So there's always like two things involved at least. See you, Lisa. See you, Sky. See you, everybody. Have a good week. Those of you who are back to Kickstarter, you'll be hearing from me soon. Will I ever do a 24-hour live stream marathon? No. Hell no. Thanks, Moonthirst. Yeah. Do you want to live through it? Certainly not. Yeah. Is the Lockpick Lawyer still on YouTube, or did he get taken down, Peter Yarl? I remember something about that. Hell, I watched a video the other day, which was a guy who was testing out special ammunition with his 50 caliber rifle, and this bullet blew up in the rifle and damn near took his throat out. And it's like, you don't really see much in the bit of the video, but it's like, you know, this is the video several months later, and this is what happened. And it's like he's went to hospital with his finger plugging an artery in his neck, and he's just like, yeah, it's all good. It's like, and then he went straight back to making more gun videos on YouTube. Man, I don't know if I'd even go near a 50 cal after it did that. You grew up in Tauranga, man. That's just like a stone's throw from me. LPL's still around. Good. Uploads pretty frequently. Yeah. All right. Catch you later.